Okay. All right. Well, this is the day we've all been looking forward to. This is the May 12th, 2021 meeting of the Financial Oversight Committee. My name is Jim Broderick, chair this year. In attendance is Rich Ficaro, Kathy Hill, Tom O'Connor, Chris Saulnier, and probably due to join soon, Michael Kane. I just wanted to, we also have, just make a note that Mary McNally and Steve Lonergan have agreed to be in attendance through the audience in the event that we run into technical questions that we need clarifications of. We can ask those questions. We'll ask if anyone other than LCAT is recording our meeting. And since we have 0 attendees, I will say that that is a no. And finally, just want to say that we are meeting via Zoom in accordance with the governor's orders of March 16th, 2020. So our first order of business is we have 2 meeting minutes that we need to approve. This is the April 29th, 21 minutes and the May 6th, 21 minutes. I believe you've all got those in advance of this meeting. Let's do them one at a time. The April 29th minutes, any changes, corrections, anyone cares to make? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the April 29th minutes.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right. We're going to do roll call, I guess. Chris?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Jim? Yes.
Point of information, Rich,
Yes.
Rich, were you absent from that meeting?
Oh my, yes I was.
And so you just abstained then?
Abstain, okay.
Yep. Thank you, Kathy. So next minutes are the May 6 minutes. Do I hear any changes? Anyone care to make any changes, corrections to those minutes?
There were changes, if I can jump in.
Yes, go ahead.
From Chris and from Rich, and I've corrected both of those.
All right. So with those corrections, do I hear a motion to approve the May 6th meeting minutes?
So moved.
Okay, and do I hear a second?
Second?
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I will do the roll call. Chris?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Jim? Yes. Okay. Thank you. And as Jackie reminded me, now that those are approved, could you just forward the minutes to her so she can put them on file? Great, thank you. And Rich, the fickle finger of fate, or the wheel
Already there.
circle has moved around to you. So thank you.
Thank you,
in
Chris.
advance.
I know I was up, but I wasn't sure, but Chris had the rotation all set.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you in advance for doing that. So before we jump right into the items, just wanted to cover information that we received since our last meeting. There were a couple of questions that came up about the Steve Lonergan's position and also about the transfer of a position in IT from the schools to the IT department, and also the question of the title for the internal auditor. So I think you've all seen the back and forth with the emails and the questions about that. So also we did get, as promised by Gordon, the 3/31 year-to-date financial report for the schools.
I did receive that.
Did that come out to us?
I didn't see it.
Well, the only reason I didn't do that, because when I looked at the addresses, I thought I was sure that all of you were on the address list. So if I missed that, I humbly apologize, and I will get that get that out to you immediately. My apologies. If I hadn't thought that you were copied, I would have definitely copied you, so that clearly my mistake.
No worries.
And Jim, that was the third quarter report? That's what it was?
Yes, through 3/31. Yep. And also, you should have received a memo that Pat Henry had put together quite some time ago. And unfortunately, due to a confusion over emails, I don't really use an East Long Meadow address. It never got to me. And thank you, Chris, Tom, whoever forwarded it finally to me. A lot of good questions, a lot of good comments, to the extent that we could have asked a number of those questions as we moved along, but just wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance to read it, and I apologize that it got to you so late. The other question I wanted to address before we go into the meat of our meetings is the timing. I have to confess, I must have missed a memo, because I thought the public hearing for the budget was going to take place last night. And again, I guess I had geared our schedule to trying to get something for 5/18. So Tom, Kathy, when has Mike scheduled the town council meeting where we should be doing the presentation?
Yes, he has the presentation scheduled for the next council meeting on the 25th.
25th, okay. And when will the public hearing take place?
At that time. It's going to be one and the same.
So will you hold the public hearing and then we'll make our recommendations, or how?
Well, I think it'll be, your report will be embedded inside the public hearing. What do you think, Tom?
Yes, I recall that the way it was, Kathy, in the past.
See, as part of the public hearing, after we get through the first 2 or 3 steps, which are primarily protocol, introducing the members, reading the notice into the record, then the applicant, which in this case would be I'm battling a head cold and trying to manage a lozenge in my mouth at the same time. You'd be considered the applicant because you chair the committee and you're allowed to make a presentation. So that's what I mean by it's embedded in it.
And if I recall, it seems to me that when Chris made the presentation last year, there was an opportunity for the public to make comments anyhow, correct?
Yes, yes.
Correct. After the presentation.
All right, okay. So if there are any issues or changes that need to be made from the recommendation, they'll just have to be made in order for the council to vote to make that 6/1 date, right? Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification. Sorry, I was I was a little confused on it. Okay, so the next group is the meat of why we're here, and that is to go over our recommendations and go over the budget. So I think what we discussed last week was that we would go through the budget items, and if number one, and just have anybody call out if there's something that we want to discuss, and then we'll make note of that, and then we'll go back to them. But we'll get through everything that we don't have an issue on first. And what I'd like to do, I should have asked Don. You all received, and I'm sorry if it was kind of belabored, some worksheets that left a couple of columns for us in terms of whether we agree or don't agree with the recommendations. So we can go through that. If you prefer, I can try putting it on the screen. I've never done that before. However people are most comfortable.
Jim, for
Yes,
example, you're going to begin at like account number 111, town council. Any questions? If there are no questions, that is automatically approved. and we pass and go forward to the next one. And what we question, we come back to after that.
Yeah, but I want to step back a little bit, Rich, and start with the revenue projections and just make
Okay.
sure that there are no adjustments that we need to make there. I did sit in on the town council hearing just long enough for Mary. I believe Mary said that she got some new information just yesterday, but we haven't incorporated that yet, so we'll probably have to get that updated. So I was on page 1, which in mine was the revenue projections, the sources projection. And the only real question I had was was on chapter 70, education aid.
Yeah.
So I would make a note for that one for us to come back to. Are there any other items on that page that anyone has a question with? Yes, Chris.
The amount that's in there for the proposed is incorrect if we're using the governor's budget. You've got 12,264,958. The governor's budget is 12,175,958.
Yes, and I think we asked about that, and my understanding is it includes $89,000 for school choice, and that was one of my questions. I don't think that should actually be there because it doesn't go to the general fund.
Oh, so yeah, so you're thinking, yeah, that would all go to the school. So you're thinking that 89,000 is in that figure.
Yeah, yes, I think I had questioned that
Okay.
before, and but now having confirmed that it really does go to an account and not to the general fund, that we should move out of there. And I guess I was going to come back to it because there was one other question I had with that, but
Okay.
any other questions on this page? All right. The next page I had, page 2, was local receipts. And was there anything, we'd gone over this quite a long time ago? Did anybody have any changes that they are remaining questions that they had on these items? All right, I don't hear anything. Let's assume we move on.
Yeah.
So next page is page 3, and that is the sources and uses summary. And obviously we've seen this for a while, and we'll be discussing most of the general fund expense portion of this exhibit as we move forward, as well as the items, the capital projects, etc. So I will just say, is there anything that anyone has that will change? This will change if we change something in the uses. Any items? Yes, Tom.
Jim, just a question of formality. So I would like to see a potential change on this page, but I know we'll be covering it in the details.
Yeah.
At least I'm assuming you will. So
Go ahead, give a specific example. We'll make sure that it does work the way you, that it will work the way you.
Okay. I noticed that after reviewing a lot of information that we've received, that there's some union contracts that are coming up for negotiation, and they won't be finalized until after the budget process is complete. Yet there's no money set aside for that. And I'm not comfortable with a 0% increase when we all know that the unions with their not just payroll taxes, but salaries, also health insurance benefits are always on the table. And there's an additional cost to the town for that.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether we would specifically get to that. Yes, Kathy.
Trying to stay muted in case I cough. Just to tag on to Tom, yes, he's correct. There are a couple of bargaining units still in negotiation on the town side, but Superintendent Smith made it clear that they're bargaining with Unit A, which is their largest union. It's the teachers. but he was optimistic that they were very close to an amicable agreement, as well as the fact that in anticipation of that, the number that he has entered for salaries as it relates to teachers is inclusive of an amicable settlement. So I think we can rely on the teacher side of it, or the school side, for the number being reasonably stable. It's just I can't say how many people are involved in the town side. Police are bargaining, and I think town hall employees might be bargaining. But
Yeah.
as for health insurance benefits, I remember Mary saying that those premiums are fixed through July 1. And so on the benefits side, we can rely on those numbers because they're based on current employee choices for whichever plan they choose to participate in.
But I'm glad you raised it, Tom, because I don't know that we would specifically have got that going through the department uses. And we are a little inconsistent because the schools have put in some money for an assumption of some increase. And on the town side, we have a different philosophy, no increase. Yes, Chris.
As to the other unions, the police union and the possible town hall union, I think past practice has been for them to take the money from free cash once everything is settled and they know the amount that it's going to cost. And it's kind of been past practice that they have not put it in because it would give an indication of what percentage they were willing to settle at and so forth. It might be wise to have some money, but in this instance, for instance, our free cash was certified this year in January. So even if something was settled prior to or on July 1st, retroactive pay would have to be paid. That's just a comment.
So and I know that that's been the issue, is we potentially signal to the union what our amount that we would be willing to make. But you would think that we would want to be consistent across the entire town. I would say that's a point we should come back to and get the flavor of the committee in terms of whether we ought to have, at the very least, I think if we do leave it the way it is, when we project our free cash and our reserves, quote unquote, we should allocate something and project something to come out of free cash for that purpose.
Yeah.
And either way, you're signaling something, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree, Jim. It's like a catch-22. It's either, as Chris indicated, it's going to come out of free cash, which still is going to be coming out of the town side, or we indicate up front as a placeholder, a potential amount as a placeholder, just so that we have a balanced budget and we're not drawing off of free cash.
So, Chris, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I can understand, Tom's point very well. It is good to have something set aside. And what crossed my mind is, what line item would you put it in? Would you have to put it in the reserve fund? Because that's about the only, you couldn't put it into individual budgets to cover the salaries in those budgets. So unless you wanted to compute a percentage on each of them. But there again, it tips the hand for negotiations. So I would suggest that if that were to be done, the only place you could do it would be the reserve fund.
All right. Let's, let me take a straw poll here. How do people feel about having some amount showing somewhere in the budget for an anticipated increase through negotiations? Yeah, Tom?
Yeah, Jim, just a point of clarification. This committee nor the council has any input into the union contracts and negotiations.
Yep.
That's coming directly from the town manager in the executive office. So whether we decide to put 1%, 2%, is moot point, in my opinion, because it's a placeholder for the town. And it doesn't mean that that's what Mary is negotiating with. It just, that's my opinion.
I think it's legal.
I know we've done it in previous years, but it had been our past practice before we started putting nothing in to actually put something in when I was on the appropriations committee. But let's keep moving forward because we got a lot to cover. And I'm glad you brought it up because I don't think we would have covered it in one of the items that we have. Any other issues on this page before we move on? Okay, thank you. So our next place is, and Rich, this is where we come to this. We'll just go through these items. There are a number that we didn't have an issue on originally. So town council, Tom, Kathy, are you aware of any other changes that you might want on the town council budget?
I think it's acceptable the way it is.
All right.
That line item accommodates the stipends for the 7 of us.
Yeah.
So town manager, I assume we're going to flag this because we want to come back and talk about the position that Mary has requested. Reserve fund. So I'm going to kind of walk through these. So yell, hey, stop, yes, or something. Reserve fund. Town accountant. Well, this is one we're going to need to go back to with Steve's position.
Mm-hmm.
And assessor,
Okay.
collector treasurer. All right, legal services, human resources, information technology, town clerk, town council, town/council clerk.
A question there, Jim?
Yeah, okay. Elections.
Oh, Jim,
Yes, Chris, yeah.
I'm sorry. I had to flip, I had to take my binder clip off, but can I go back to 155 information technology?
You can go anywhere you want, Chris. Yeah.
Not that it's going to happen in fiscal 22, but we got an answer on that position that's going to transfer from the school to the IT department.
Huh?
Next year, will that position be part of the town budget instead of the school budget? That would be my, I don't know what the plans are for it.
It sounded from what Mary had indicated that it would then be covered in the town budget. Now, I guess the question would be, would Ryan get an allocation from the school to cover that salary on an ongoing basis, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
If I can jump in,
Yes, Kathy.
I thought I read in, maybe I'm making this up, in Gordon's explanation that if it goes over to the IT side, the allocated salary will go with it.
Correct.
Yes, Chris.
Here. I was wondering if that was just for the first year, though.
I would think typically if a salary moves along with the individual into another ledger account, that's a permanent thing.
So are you
Well,
saying?
I don't know that, but there's no benefit one way or the other to just doing it for a year.
So it's a good clarification. It doesn't necessarily impact this year's
Right,
budget other than a wash, but
right.
it's a good question to clarify. I kind of assumed that's what that meant, Kathy, but it can't hurt to just double check that that's how it'll be. So
Yeah.
we got it noted. Thank you. Yes, Tom.
Also, Jim, if I may.
Yep.
I also note in this, with this position, I'm pretty sure, although we don't approve positions within the request from the school committee, they requested additional help in IT. Is this that position that they requested and they funded last year and now they're pushing it back to the town?
Well, I wasn't aware of a new IT position in the schools.
Well, again, it was a request that they made, but we don't fund the positions. We give them the bottom line number.
No, I know, but I thought they had gone over with us the positions that they were looking for and the positions they were trying to add, which they did not add last year. And I don't recall that any of them were IT positions. We can clarify that. But it didn't sound like it wasn't my understanding that that was a new position that was created last year for the schools, but can ask that, yeah.
Yeah, or the previous year, and it might have been titled something like IT teacher or some sort of instructor.
Yeah.
Instructor position.
Yeah.
Can
Kathy,
I comment?
Yeah.
My recollection on that position is that it's more than a year old, and maybe Rich can help me with this. The nature of that position, unless I'm all wet, is to manage and crunch the data that is required by the state as it relates to student learning and learning gaps and a whole bunch of other analyticals. And if I had to guess, I'm thinking that they're just the proposed move is simply to coordinate all things IT under one umbrella. But again, that's Gordon to clarify. But I believe this position is multiple years old already. Rich?
I think you're right, Kathy. We do have a position, I forget what it's called, that does all the reporting to the state, which is quite involved and complex. And I don't know if that's the position that's being moved at this time. But the position has been there at least for 15 years, I'm going to say, about 15 years in the school department.
Yeah, Jim, that's not, well, I'm sure what Rich said is true, but in recent years, and that being the last year or the year before, there was a discussion on a position similar to an IT position, and that's more recent than 15 years ago. And I just want to make sure.
Yeah, we'll jot it down, Tom. I don't know that it impacts our recommendations for the FY22 budget, but we'll jot it down. Same kind of question as Chris raised. There's no, we should be able to get those clarified very easily. So, yep, we'll make sure. I think we had gotten through elections, and
We had a question on town clerk, and did you flag that for me?
oh yes, yep, we did.
I have that noted.
So we're at planning, zoning, and conservation. All right, PVPC assessment.
Can't do anything about that.
Police. So obviously we're going to want to talk about police with the position. Fire, same thing. Building. Going on to page 7. Dispatch. Health. Administration and highway.
I got these messages down. Police, fire, building, snow and ice.
Let's see, Chris, I just came off of page 7 and I'm at the top of page 8.
When my page printed out,
Oh, it got snuck in beneath.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm with you.
I
now.
hate that when that happens. So the next one is building facilities and maintenance,
Okay,
snow and ice, utilities.
Yes, flag, please.
Yeah, okay. Trash collection, waste collection. Moving on to page 9. Education, yes, of course. Talk about that.
question?
Yeah. And school committee, I assume we'll talk about that. So moving from education, library, recreation, and moving from page 9 to page 10, celebrations, cultural and historical, council on aging, veteran services.
Are we, Jim?
Yep.
Are we going to follow up about the district, whether we're in the district or out of it, or it's not a question for fiscal '22?
I think, well, I know it, I believe the little part that I watched of the council meeting last night, Mary had indicated that that discussion, et cetera, was still going on. So I assume we'll, you know, it probably will be going on beyond when we recommend our budget. So probably what she has is what she's got to use at the moment until we know more.
Okay.
So do you want to follow up or do you want to?
No, that's fine.
Maybe we need some clarification, because I thought the deadline was May 1st to reconcile all this.
I think it was
I heard
30
that at some
days.
point.
Yeah.
When you say date to reconcile all of this, what do you mean?
And Mary said that she had to make a decision by May 1st. That's what I thought.
Oh, on the veterans?
Yes. So maybe we just need some clarification, Jim, on that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Again, this is a clarification question, not a
Correct. No,
not
no,
a
Right.
budget question. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, payroll taxes, workers' compensation.
Yep. Jim?
Yep.
Payroll taxes could be impacted by the discussion we previously had on the salary increases.
Right.
So I don't know if we need to go back to that. It depends on the answer to the other question.
Yeah, although my thinking, Tom, was that it'll be difficult for us to figure out that calculation. Right now, what we're talking about is a small amount that we may put somewhere, you know, for the budget. And this, they'll have to kind of crank it through and flow it through. So maybe when we make our decisions and recommendations, we could ask for that adjusted amount. So it's not a question, it's more, how do we make sure it's it's accurately incorporated? Right.
Exactly. My concern is the bottom line here. I want to make sure we're comparing apples and apples and that we come back with a true estimate of hopefully no increase or a slight increase.
Okay.
Is
So-
that on our list to review?
Well, it's nothing that we can review until or unless we make changes to salaries or staffing
Okay.
or the item we discussed about. Were you going to say something, Chris?
I was just going to say that as far as the union contracts, we don't know when those are going to be settled. So we may be into the new fiscal year before that's absolutely finalized. So there again, you know, if you want to prepare for it, you have to think about what might it be, but we don't have the authority to change salary line items, that's for sure.
No, when I say that, I'm just saying
Yeah.
what our recommendations would be if we, for
Yes.
things, not, yeah, we don't change them, right? Yeah. All right, workers' compensation, health and life insurance.
Jim?
Yes, Don. Yep.
Workers' comp, when I see something go down that much, it flags a concern. And I've done some research on it. And because of COVID, we had a very reduced workforce. So our experience rate could potentially be due to the fact that employees were not as active at work as they have been in the past, and that this reduction is going to go back up when things when things return back to normal. So I'm concerned about that number being that low and that amount of money and not being looked at.
So it seems to me that we had this discussion with Mary when we looked at some of these. But we can certainly inquire if yes, Kathy. You're on mute.
Sorry. I think as we continue to speak about some of these line items that go to negotiations, we're kind of flirting with the open meeting law. So in terms of violating it, and I don't, Mary is in earnest negotiations with some of the bargaining units, and to continue to talk around that. I don't want that to muddy the waters for her or to give the impression the council is forcing her hand in anything. To me, doesn't make, I worry about that.
All right. Thank you for that caution, Kathy. And try to be a little bit more circumspect.
Oh, it's not a criticism. I think it's just a caution for us.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'll mark that down, Tom, in terms of that reduction, continuing that manner. We'll follow up on it. Health and life insurance. Hi, Michael.
Hi, everyone.
I know you do.
Hi, Mike.
Where we're at, we're going through the department and other accounts uses, and we're basically doing it by exception. So we're going through and only and just noting the ones that we want to come back to discuss. So we are actually up to liability insurance, which I don't know if you have that package I sent, is page 11, and then we'll circle back to the items that we want to specifically talk about. That makes sense?
Yep.
So top of page 11, liability insurance, retirement assessment. All right. So these items, it's hard to argue with them as long as they're cranked in correctly. So general fund principal, community preservation, general fund interest, community preservation interest, I assume that means, general fund short-term, and community preservation short-term. Any issues with that? Okay, so we're now at the other items. So capital projects are the first, so obviously we'll mark that because we want to go through them. Stabilization fund, we probably do want to talk about that, I assume, but probably after we go through everything else. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that might hold true with OPEB. Compensated absences fund, any issues? Valuation services fund, any issues? That's the assessors. Snow and ice deficit, community preservation fund are all zeros. Real estate abatement, state charges. Yep.
I'm wondering if the 200,000 is enough to cover the abatements. I know that the state in recent years moved the overlay account into one bundled account. But sometime earlier this year, as assessors do talk, there's always a concern of running a deficit. And this year, because commercial properties took a hit, I'm wondering if $200,000 is going to be enough to cover what may come out with the new values. So I'd like to have that marked, please.
All right.
We could check with Diane on
that. State charges, state offset, and there's nothing under prior year bills. So what I would suggest is this is the operating budget. And maybe what, and I'm just throwing out, please disagree and suggest something else if you like. Maybe we go back now and discuss these items before we move into the detail of the capital projects. Yes, Rich.
Uh, Just to be very exacting, Jim,
Yep.
taking the minutes, I would appreciate if I could run through the accounts that we question, just to make sure that I'm accurate and we know what we're doing when we go forward. Are you okay with that, Jim?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
I don't take a minute.
Yep.
So I have 122 town manager, 135 town accountant, 155 IT clarification, 160 town council clerk, 210 police, 220 fire, 429 utility, 300 education, 399 school committee, 543 veteran services clarification, 912 workman's compensation, capital projects, stabilization fund, OPED, and the real estate abatement. Did I miss anything at all?
No, not under that. I think the only other item I had was the Chapter 70 revenue projection.
Okay. I had that, I think, in a different part of the minutes.
Yes, that's in the other group.
I had them, when we started with the revenue projection on page 1, Joe.
Okay.
I had it there.
Well, while we're at this, we could just go through quickly the capital projects and do the same thing as we did with the department uses, just to see what we've got. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
All right. So that's starts on page 14, and I'll just do the same thing as we did with the department with the uses. First is the one-to-one replacements. Second is the ladder truck payment. Then the network upgrades has been taken care of. This is the next item is the Mountain View portable modulars. I guess modular is probably not the accurate term anymore, but the Mountain View classrooms. All right, the cruiser replacements, the server upgrades for IT, the new generator for the police. That was Chris?
Yeah, the reason why I'm questioning it, and it goes along with the town hall generator, which is on the next page. I remember Brian saying something about there would be a $38,000 cost. And we have both of these labeled as coming from a grant. So I'm wondering, should we clarify if there is a cost of $38,000 with these? Maybe my notes are wrong, but.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Chris. Dump truck. Moving on to page 15, the self-contained breathing apparatus. Then DPW Highway Sidewalk Fund. I assume we're going to want to talk about that.
Yes, we are.
Next item is the Allen Street landfill. Town Hall trailer mount generator. Is that the second half of that question, Chris?
Correct.
All right. The mountain maple shade exterior doors, the bunker gear for the firefighters, the townwide crack sealing of parking lots, the van number 47 to replace the truck or the van. This is for DPW equipment. Equipment replacements, desktops, iPads, etc. for IT. Carpet replacement for the Birchland Park Library and labs and chorus room. Now, a Heritage Park redevelopment construction documents for 471. Should we assume that's a question that we want to talk about, or? Yes, okay. Resurface the track and the vac jet truck for stormwater sewer, and the Vineland pump station major service. Then replace the water main at Cooley Avenue and Avery Street. And the Rescue 2 year 3 of 3 for the lease payment on for the fire department. And that's our list of recommended capital projects from Mary and her capital advisory committee. So to recap, we have a question regarding the police new generator, which is linked to the downtown hall generator. And then we have a question regarding the sidewalk fund, and a question regarding the Heritage Park documents, construction documents. That's all I noted. Did we catch them all? Yes, Kathy.
Just to go back to a comment that was made relative to the school department and the receipt of the ESSER grants, and soon to receive some more in the America's Recovery Plan grants. There was a reference to the fact that the money's allowed a fair amount of replacement and addition of new computer hardware for staff and students. So I'm wondering if it makes any sense to ask Ryan with the infusion happily of that money from the federal government, if that removes any of these requests, because without the money, the request would need to be here. But if the grant money has alleviated some of that burden, should we be, modifying, like the very first one, the one-to-one replacements? If that's been taken care of, happily, we can, mark that off. I just feel as though we should at least inquire of Gordon and Ryan, was there any relief on the capital project side because of the capacity of the grants to, help resolve a problem?
Yeah. No, fair question, Kathy. I know that the answer we got back on the 400 Chromebooks that were bought through ESSER, and I think I understood the answer that those are for, we hadn't really anticipated those in our capital plan. They were for kids younger than we were planning to replace. So that would have been the town's expense if we hadn't had the ESSER funding to do that. And but it's unclear to me if I know if I understood the school committee correctly, there may be some gray areas between what items would qualify for the ESSER funding and whether they would want to use it before they know what other things they may be required to do. But a fair question to pose and make sure that we understand it.
Right.
Let me see. So that's basically right on the first one there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So brings us coming back to our first step. And it's 2:20. So and the first item I have was just the chapter 70. I think this is on page 1. It's the sources projection. And I guess the question I had besides the 89,000 was this charter tuition reimbursement that is 34,261 and up from the governor's proposed of 14,227. So it doesn't appear, I don't think it was in the 12,264 that Mary used. So she didn't use it in here. So I guess that means it's not a general fund.
Yeah.
Yep,
Jim?
go ahead, Chris, yeah.
I've got the governor's, the cherry sheet from the governor here.
Yep.
The total, all education items, the amount is 12,279,185 because there is, the chapter 70 is at 12,175,958. Charter tuition reimbursement at 14,227. And then that school choice receiving tuition at 89,000. So that number should be at 12,279,185.
Well, I was just going to say, I thought we determined that the 89,000 wasn't going to be a general fund source of revenue.
It isn't, it's an education source of revenue.
So let's just think about that for a second. So these are figuring out what amount we would have to levy from taxes to pay for the town's government, right? Town's operating and services. So if it's a revenue to the school, but it's going to a school account. So the town never sees it. So it's not like it alleviates, it's not like the revenue is available to offset town expenses, is it?
Right.
Right. So I guess I thought that would mean that we would take 89,000 out of that 12,279,185. Did I misunderstand?
Okay, but so what's in on the next, the third line down, other state aid 183,574. Are you putting the 89,000 into that number?
I wouldn't, because
think
it's not
circuit
going
breaker-
to, yeah, go ahead, Kathy, sorry.
That other state aid might include that circuit breaker money we get for extremely high expenses in special education, where a portion is reimbursed.
Yeah, see, the unrestricted general government aid is what we call the local aid. And I have a number on this sheet that includes the offset receipts. So this is broken down in a way that makes it difficult to follow.
I think this is something that we can get a clarification of.
I see what it is. I see what it is now, Jim.
Oh, go ahead.
Unrestricted government aid is the correct number, 1590840. And then there's veterans benefits that come back to the town, and also the exemptions that the town is reimbursed for the blind, the elderly, and so forth. So that would be your 183,574. I'm sorry. And then you have your offsets, which I don't know where you list the offsets.
I don't list them. I'm just
I
using.
don't mean to confuse.
Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, so what I'm understanding is that if we back out the 89,000 of school choice money, because it goes directly to the schools and not the town, that
Correct.
chapter 70 figure now becomes $12,175,958.
Assuming that we also back out charter tuition reimbursement,
Okay.
which I think the 12,264, Mary and Steve had netted that number out already.
Mhm.
So yes, I would agree. It would be 12,175,958.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. All right. Then I think we had no issues on the local receipts. We did have the question about the monies for contracts or non, or to put some type of placeholder in for something in the budget for contracts under negotiation. And then we moved on to the department areas, which our first one was town manager. So this is the first one we need to decide, how we recommend it. Do we recommend it? Does anyone have want to make a motion or have some discussion?
Now, this is focusing somewhat on the new position, am I correct?
Yes.
And doing a lot,
Yeah, go ahead, Rich, yeah.
doing a lot of different readings, I think it might even some of the readings I did with Pat Henry. There was a concern.
I'm having a little trouble hearing you.
Can't hear you.
Yeah,
There was a concern about the title of the position, am I correct?
there is that, yes. So the question would be, are we in favor of the position? And the second question, I think, would be, title, although from our vantage point, title is not necessarily, it doesn't matter to us. But yes, Kathy.
I was going to reiterate that the council, in spite of what we recommend, has absolutely no purview over what the manager calls any position. And nor should it, because it's an executive decision.
And actually, I understand from Mary, she obviously, in her write-up, posited several different names for the position. And I think, if I understand her main concern is getting the position and trying it out and getting that assistance, and not so much what it's titled. So I was going to say, let's focus on the position and not the title for the moment. Yes, Chris.
Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to ask Kathy, being a counselor, have you received a job description from the town manager for that position?
The short answer is I haven't. Maybe Mike has. If I could read Mary's mind, she's probably got one, but until it's approved by the council, it's somewhat of an impertinent point.
Yes, Mike.
I would just add that the position, the job description is in motion, and it's being prepared right now, but it's not in a final stage in a form that is ready to be presented to the entire council at this moment.
Okay. Chris, go ahead.
I approve the funding of a position. I feel as though there's assistance needed in that office. So
All
I
right.
don't know how you want to proceed, but I'm in favor of it.
Okay, thank you. Rich?
Could we define the position, how many hours, I'm sorry, my memory is not as sharp as I'd like it to be.
So in her write-up, she does define the number of hours and has a specific dollar amount that she's included in the budget. And basically has indicated it's a trial position to see whether it proves out, see whether it, provides the benefits that she's hoping it does.
And it is part-time, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Yes, I believe it's part-time. Yes, Mike.
Jim, I just want to apologize to your committee with my late arrival, and I am being asked to respond here again. So I'm going to have to leave, and I just want to apologize to the board. So if I can help anybody with anything after the fact, please reach out.
All right. Thank you. Understand, Michael.
Thank you, guys.
Kathy, feelings about the position?
I would support it. In the 2 years I was council president, some with our former manager, a little more of my time with Mary, and being in and out of the town hall 3, 4, sometimes daily during the week, and seeing the amount of work that has to be attended to. It's commendable that the progress that the manager's office in both administrations has made with a lack of help to corral, grant seeking and help the department heads. So I'm very much in favor of it.
All right. Tom? You're on mute. You're on mute, Tom.
Thank you. I am also in favor of the position, and we can deal with the title and duties of that position at a later date. But I too agree with Kathy that I have been, or I am knowledgeable about a lot of things, and Mary's explanation was very clear that she needs help with project management and grant writing. And I think that's important to fund that position.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Rich?
Everybody said it all.
So let's just do a motion then. Chris, you want to make a motion to,
I make a motion, sure.
or we're going to approve? So I guess the motion would be to approve the budget as it's been proposed, or that we're not going to make any changes to the budget. I'm just trying to think of. So the budget is there. It incorporates the position. Go ahead. We'll say that we will vote to endorse the existing town manager budget.
How about if I just say, I move that we accept the salary line item contained in the town manager's budget to provide for a pilot position, part-time pilot position.
Okay, I can second that.
All right. Other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh,
What was roll call?
can I do, it's all roll call? This is going to take a while. Chris?
Okay, yes.
All right. Tom?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes, I'll take them in minutes, okay?
Jim? Yes. Okay.
Sally.
All right. So we're all done with that. Our next item is the town accountant. And this is also somewhat position related. And again, somewhat of a question in terms of the title, but Steve had provided us a little bit of background as to what he's looking to do. And he has titled it an internal audit position, but I look at it and it seems like it's more assistance to make sure their department is doing what they need to do. But I'll open it to discussion. Kathy.
I recall Steve saying that the addition of a position of this nature, regardless of what it's called, was cited, or lack of a position like that, was cited in a 2019 management letter during the annual audit. And so Steve's correct in waving the white flag there that that's a hot spot. We can't continue in subsequent annual audits to ignore that. And for the amount of, I want to say it was $25,000.
It's 25,000, yes.
It doesn't make any sense to me to ignore that recommendation, because the inclusion of it will likely, in the long run, save us way more than $25,000. So I would be in favor of it.
All right. Others? Chris? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the position. He cited it as being to establish, good policies and procedures. So I think that'll keep the whole function on track. Thank you.
Tom?
Yeah, I am also in favor of the position, but not the title. Having done some research on it, it implies something that is not part of the industry standard, especially in municipalities, for that internal auditor title. If we want to call it project manager, again, like we have with potentially the town manager's position, then fine. But as far as the position goes, I'm in favor of it for the assistance that he needs.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Tom. Rich? Okay, and I would be in the same boat. And I think the title, I think we're expressing our, a little bit of concern as to the implications of using that title. But in terms of what the budget implications are, let's vote on the town accountant budget. Chris, you did such a great job fashioning the first one. You want to try this one?
Okay, I move that on item, let's see, account number 135, town accountant, that we approve the salary line item, which includes the appropriation of money for a part-time pilot position in an auditing function.
Wow, awesome.
Okay.
For a second, Kathy, thank you. And any other discussion? All in favor, please? Sorry. Kathy?
Yes.
All right, Tom?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Thumbs up? Yes, okay. And Jim? Yes. Okay, approved. Thank you. So our next item is, well, the one I have is town council clerk, because the information technology was a clarification question, not a necessary budget for FY22. So Tom, you had noted this one, so go ahead.
Okay. My concern here is, as I've noticed in the past few years of being on the council, is when I see something that goes up or down a substantial amount of money, it raises a red flag, and I start to delve into the reasoning behind it. And when I see almost a 28% decrease in non-salary items, I tend to flag that. And my concern is that I believe this is COVID related, and that this is a one-time reduction for that amount of money, and that cost will increase substantially again when COVID lifts, and that will not be covered in the budget. So what I'm trying to get at is we need a true budget, what our actual expenses are going to be, so that we're not drawing from free cash all the time.
Right, no, I hear what you're saying. I thought we had asked this question in that there was a specific project that they had been working on that is either all done or it's been stopped. And that's the reason for the significant reduction in the non-salary. Kathy, do you recall better?
Yes, you have a very good memory. This, and Tom will recall this too. This reduction is the fact that we are near the finish of recodification of all of our bylaws and town-related policies through general code, and it won't be for another 6 months or more that we'll be in a position to say, here's the finished project, but we're on the downside of paying for it, I believe. And that's why that expense isn't going to continue to reoccur.
Yeah, through the
Yeah, go
chair.
ahead, Tom.
Yeah. So I understand and I agree with what Kathy said. I know part of this is related to this codification process we've been going through for about 2 years now. But there's also costs, and I don't know the breakdown of those costs embedded in there for support functions which are currently not being performed by the clerk's office or the clerk of the council. So I tend to believe that those costs will start to show up again, and that they will not be reflective in a true budget.
So are you talking about an increase in non-salary expenses, Tom?
Yes, correct, Jim. And I don't know what the breakdown is. As Kathy stated, we're going through the codification. We're almost complete. I don't know where we are in the payment process to finalize that. I got to assume that it's going to be wrapping up fairly soon, but it still may carry over till the next fiscal year, which means there'll be an impact on the budget for a portion of that.
Just as a follow-up point, there's a little brain cell of mine thinking that all of the maintenance, annual maintenance costs, software-wise, is merged into Ryan's budget somewhere. Does anybody have a recollection of that?
No, and I'm having trouble finding my town clerk council budget. I probably threw it in a wrong tab or something. So we can clarify that, Tom.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no, that I believe they had a pretty good reason when we questioned it originally, but it fades as we as time goes by. So we can certainly ask.
Hey, Jim?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
Under the town council's clerk, I see the minuses under capital outlay of furniture and electronic equipment, and also a reduction in the postage line item. So there's a reduction of 3,600 in postage, a reduction of 6,328 in furniture, and electronic equipment, there's a reduction of 7,681 or 682 if you rounded. So I think that would account for what's showing as that big reduction. The 27%.
And more so.
Yeah.
So Tom, your question isn't that is a legitimate decrease, you're questioning whether that's not going to increase in the following years?
Or, correct, Jim, but also not just in following years, but after July 1st, assuming the town hall opens back up under favorable conditions and business is back as usual, there'll be those additional costs may start to come back.
All right. So you mean non-salary, or are you also wondering about the salary budget?
No, non-salary, specific to things that are not being done today.
Okay.
That will be done again.
Let's start as a clarification. Yes, Chris?
I was just going to say, it seems so if electronic equipment and furniture might have been a one-time expense, and the only thing that would be of concern would be the $3,600 reduction in postage, which is probably COVID related. So I would say that $3,600, but the department head would have an avenue if she had a problem. She can always alert the town manager, and sometimes the bills, if there's a deficit in that account at the end of the year, it can be taken care of.
Okay. We can mark it and have it just clarified, Tom. So let's move on to our next item, which is police. I believe with police, is that correct, Rich? That's our next one?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks. So the police budget is wrapped around also the request for a lieutenant in addition to staff. So anybody want to start in terms of where they're at with this? Yes, Chris.
I seem to be doing a lot of talking today. I think the importance to note on this, this is a new position that would start in January of the coming year, according to what the police chief told us. I think it's not a new position, it's an opportunity for promotion. In other words, it's not an addition to the staffing. It's an opportunity for someone to move up from sergeant to lieutenant, I believe. At least that's the way I understood it. And if that's the case, I am in favor of it.
Just for clarification's sake, I took it the opposite way, Chris. I took it as an additional 1.0 FTE, that he would keep the sergeant staffing at 7 and not take one from the sergeants.
Yeah, Yes, that's how I understood it too, Rich. But Tom will have his hand up. Kathy, then we'll move over to you.
Yeah, my understanding of this position is it's not, it's a fairly complicated process because of civil service in the union. And this is a new position, as Rich stated. And I believe that's a negotiating tool for Mary at some point, or for the chief, to figure out how that's going to work. I would be in support of promotion from within, and I totally support promoting from within our department to an executive position, but it's not that easy. It's a complicated process, and as Chris stated, it's going to take months before this is ironed out. And this current salary of 110,000, I think we could easily cut that in half, since it won't be funded till January 1st at the earliest.
Kathy?
I would agree with Rich and Tom when they say that this is, in my eyes, a new position, and in fairness, this is the concept for an additional executive individual within the police department has been on the table for at least 3 fiscal years. The fact remains that with one chief and all of the remaining complement covered by civil service and in bargaining unit, it's what's called a very flat org chart. And it's a position that needs first to be out of a bargaining unit and exclusive of civil service, so that the chief can have an officer, lieutenant, captain, every town does it differently, that he can rely on to oversee all the administrative things, as he has to manage his time with, policy development and grant recruitment and so forth. I would absolutely support the position. It won't start until January, and the chief's made it clear that two things: that he believes there's natural talent right under our roof, and that his vision is that the successful lieutenant will be an East Long Meadow employee already, and that's a nice thing. Secondly, I have a concern that we would still need 7 sergeants if we now have a lieutenant. And I'd like some, this is just me, I'd like some give there, to the, from the chief maybe, although he said he could use all 7. I'd like some consideration of the fact that we like the idea of a lieutenant position, but can you make it work with 6 sergeants instead of 7?
Rich?
I think it's back to Chris's point, which she began with, is that do we really need 7 sergeants as compared to 6? And do we need additional funding if we're just promoting from within?
And I will say that when the chief was with us at one of our meetings, I had made note when we were discussing this that I thought I had read it in his write-up, but I can't seem to find it quickly. But I had also written it down that his budget was including the lieutenant position as a new position and an additional position, but that if he couldn't get the additional position, he would still like to have the lieutenant position authorized in order to at least begin working through the organizational structure and the assistance that Kathy was explaining. So I'm good with the authority to promote to lieutenant, but I was thinking perhaps we wait on the addition, adding the position in terms of creating an additional position in the police department. So I'll throw that out. You can react to that.
Yeah.
Tom?
Thank you, Jim. Again, going back to my initial comments, I'm in support of the position and would hope that because of the need for it, that it's that we promote from within. But the issue of civil service and dealing with the union is not something that is going to help, that we can't control.
Right.
So if we go back to our early discussions about the other positions, I think maybe we should take a vote on, do we approve of this new position or not? And let the dynamics of this process work out between Mary and the chief and the unions and civil service.
The only difference I would say, Tom, is that in our last two votes, we're approving the budget as budgeted, as proposed. So we would have to approve or vote, and we certainly can, to recommend the town manager budget for the police department that includes an additional person in the budget. So if we were to say we approve of the position, but not necessarily it becoming an additional person in the police department, then the budget would need to be adjusted to reduce it accordingly. So that's what I would only clarify. So I don't know what people's thoughts are about the position, or the position as an addition to the staffing of the police department.
Yeah.
Yes, Tom. And then I'll get to Kathy.
So the position itself is already embedded in the budget.
No, it's
Like
not.
the other positions are. So the police budget is set as it stands today with the full funds for this position. But I think there's possibly two things going on here. One is, as I stated, because of the complexity of the process to actually get someone in the chair doing that work, this $110,018 can be reduced in half. So that might be the question you're asking, Jim, is we can reduce that budget by 55,000, and that's contingent upon this position being filled on January 1st.
Well, there would be an incremental difference in the budget between a lieutenant's salary and a sergeant's salary. Yes, Chris. Oh, I'm sorry. I owe Kathy, and then we'll go to you,
Okay.
Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Am I mute? No. I'm kind of the same opinion as Jim, that we either vote the position up or down. And then the most we can do after that is to suggest to the manager that she work with the police chief to work it out. Similar to a year ago when there was some concern under Chief D'Alessio of how to manage the police lobby, because dispatch was moving over to Westcom, and we ultimately decided on a dollar amount and said to Chief D'Alessio, work that out with our manager.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the cleanest way, because again, we cannot step into negotiations, nor should we. And to discuss like how to do that might also be flirting around with that open meeting violation again.
Chris?
Yeah, I was going to say, in that salary line item for the police, I'm sure there are non-union salaries in there.
Yes.
And increases probably for the Quinn bill and so forth. I'm not sure. But I believe that less than half of that amount, or maybe 2/3 of that amount, covers the new salary. So I'd be very reluctant to cut that amount of increase, because I think it provides not only for the possibility of a new position, not necessarily a new hire, but it also covers other contracted monies, such as the the police chief's increase and the people that work in that department that are not public safety people.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree. I mean, I think it's semantics at this point. I think I'm in agreement for the position. I was just suggesting that since it's not starting till January 1st, that there may be an opportunity to reduce that budget. But I'm in support of the position and I like to see it move forward. And if it's a stickler to cut the budget, then let's leave the budget as it stands and let the.
all right, so I'm sorry, I'm getting confused, so bear with me for a moment. Let me see if I can. So the budget that was submitted, as far as I understand, is for the full staffing of the police department plus the addition of a new lieutenant. So all the staff are being budgeted for, plus we're budgeting for a new staff position that will be a lieutenant. So in the budget, that money is all accounted for. So I guess the question is, if we are okay with the position, which is only in however we reflect our recommendations to the town council for the budget, but if we're okay with the position, are we okay with the position? And instead of having that as an additional position to the police department with everybody else, or just as basically the same number of police officers, but one person being a lieutenant, I guess is what because I think there is a difference in the budget depending on what we think in terms of what our recommendation would be. Am I just confusing it more?
I think you're saying it in a different way, but the bottom line is we still have to vote it up or down. And when Mary and Chief Williams get together and decide on a common vision and go forward and find a potential new lieutenant, the worst case scenario is that line item may go down because they may have decided to restructure their org chart in a more creative way. And then there'll be a turn back. Not that you want to just, certainly I don't want to send the impression we're just leaving line items thick enough in case, and then what you're doing is overtaxing the public, and I'm certainly not a proponent of that, but I don't see a better way around this because we can't dictate negotiations and tell the chief how to run his department, nor should we.
No, the only way we can reflect that, Kathy, is in the amount of the budget that we would recommend.
Right.
So that theoretically, if the budget was budget proposed was 800,000 and it included the additional position, we would wind up having to skinny it down and saying we recommend 700,000, which would then force them to deal with that. But I guess are you all saying you're in favor of the position as an additional position, and therefore the budget as it is being budgeted and proposed at this point? Tom, you're nodding your head. Is that correct?
I'm in favor of that. Yes.
All right. Chris?
I'm in favor of that, and I think Kathy should make the motion because she's got a good handle on it.
Let me just see where Rich is.
Oh, thumbs up.
All right.
Something.
All right. I'm kind of 50-50 on this one, so go ahead if you want to make a motion, Kathy.
Okay, well, let me think now. I move that we endorse the salary line item for the police department as stated, with the inclusion of a potential lieutenant position.
I'll second that.
I'll second that emotion. Okay. Other discussion? Question? Yeah.
No, yeah, I just want to read it back. Kathy motioned that we endorse the salary line item as stated with the inclusion of a potential lieutenant position.
Salary line item as stated in the police budget.
Okay.
Good job, Rich.
Got it. Potential. position, lieutenant.
I forget how lucky we were when we had somebody taking minutes.
Yeah, it's a real challenge.
So any other discussion? Then I will ask for votes. Kathy,
Yes.
Rich,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
and Chris.
Yes.
And Jim? Yeah, okay. I'll go on. I respect my peers. All right.
It's 3:00.
Oh my gosh, I'm having so much fun. Time flew.
Time flew.
So we do have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow. I think we did that when thank you, Chris. I appreciate you saying that. We did do that with the assumption that we would need to potentially present our recommendations to the town council on 5/18. So we're kind of feeling, in order to try to give a little time in case there were issues or questions with the budget. So we have it already scheduled, it's posted. It could give us the opportunity to clarify some of these questions, move through and get to the rest of it. Is everybody in favor of meeting tomorrow as scheduled? Okay. Yes, Rich.
just a question. I know that as I was going through the minutes, these minutes here, that we have education tomorrow.
Yes.
So that's an elected board. As attendees, should we have the superintendent and school chairperson attending as we had Mary McNally and Steve Longren attending? I'm just asking.
That's fine. They'd only, if we run into a question, I can ask Don to bring him in for that question.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And as a courtesy, we certainly could let them know that it's on the docket for tomorrow to discuss for them to
I
listen.
just, I'm kind of asking, this is my first year. I don't know how Chris and Tom and Kathy feel as veterans that.
Well, I don't think, we're not going to call them in as panelists.
No, I meant as attendees.
Yeah, so, I mean, everybody can attend. I mean, that's the open meeting rule, so
Okay.
they're more than welcome to listen in, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm good. I'm good.
And
I have a clarification before we adjourn. I've reached out to Jeannie about did she have a ballpark figure on annual maintenance fees for general code going forward once we're ready for it? And she said it's in the neighborhood of about $1,000 a year, which by many standards is pretty inexpensive. So whether it's in there or not, that's not really gonna change our bottom line over $63 million.
Agreed. Thank you for reaching out, Kathy. Tom, go ahead.
yeah, tomorrow's meeting is at 1:30. I have a commitment at 3:00. Is it possible to move it up to give us the hour and a half, or?
Yeah, it's posted.
Unfortunately, we've posted it. What we can do is we can arrange the order of our discussions to try to get through the pieces that you want to make sure you're there for. Basically, we've gone through everything. We're going to come back. I think we have the fire, we have education, we have some other items, we have the capital planning. But I mean, the order in which we do that, we can kind of, be a little bit flexible. So take a look and let me know if you want to make sure that you're there for the school discussion. That's something we can try to arrange. Instead of spending time clarifying some of the other budgets, we can jump right into that if you like. Or so think about that, and because we can go longer, but unfortunately that doesn't help you.
No, so obviously it's posted as it was stated. So 1:30, fine, and I'll stay as long as I can. I don't want to rearrange the schedule because it affects everybody else on our committee.
My guess is that you probably want to be there for the fire, the schools, and the capital projects.
Yeah.
The three big items. The rest is kind of cleanup and
Yes.
clarifications. So we'll try to we won't do a lot of housekeeping. We'll try to move right into those. Does that make sense for everybody?
Sure.
Okay. Yes, Chris?
Just a question. Do you think we'll get through all of this tomorrow, or do you want to err on the side of caution and perhaps set something up for Monday or Tuesday next week?
So it's a good question, and I'm thinking, I think we may get through it all, but we may not have a chance to go back and take a deep breath and see what we did, you know, and what it looks like and how it affects things.
Right.
So yes, that actually would be a good thing to try to have another meeting in order to, all right, here's what we decided, and have us have a chance to put it together so we can all look at it to see
Yeah.
what it is we did. And I think you're thinking early because we're on for the 25th, so
Correct.
better to get it early.
Yeah.
How do people's calendars look for early next week?
I can't be available till 4 o'clock on Monday and Tuesday. I'm working both days.
I'm just actually checking to see what our calendar is.
Okay,
So that would be the 17th. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right.
18th or possibly even 19th.
So the days are assessors. We have 4:30 on Wednesday on the 19th. As far as Monday or Tuesday in the afternoons, that's fine.
But then Rich can't be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the evening is Recreation Commission on Monday and Planning Board on Tuesday.
So
What about,
go ahead, Chris.
what about Wednesday?
That's what I was just going to bring up. Are you available Wednesday, Rich?
Absolutely.
How about
Absolutely.
you? How about you, Don? And Tom, are you shaking your head?
I'm not available on all day Wednesday.
Yeah, we have a library trustees meeting.
All right. So it doesn't sound like we're going to get everybody in the meeting.
I mean, how late can we start, Dawn, on Monday or Tuesday?
How late or
Yeah.
how early?
Yeah, like, can 4 o'clock work for us? Or
Four will work. Those meetings are at 6, so that's 5:45 is your cutoff.
So you're talking about maybe early evening or late afternoon on
Late afternoon.
Tuesday?
I'm available both times on Monday or
All
Tuesday.
right. So how early would you think you might be available?
If I leave Bay State at 3 o'clock, I could be in front of this computer by 3:30.
All right. So 3:30 would leave, because we do have a hard stop with the LCAT. So how do people feel about 3:30 Tuesday, the 18th?
Works for me.
Works for me.
Tuesday, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank
Yep.
you so much.
All right. No, thank you.
All right.
All right.
The info.
One last comment, Chris, the fickle finger of fate for tomorrow points at you. Are you okay doing the minutes?
Oh, for minutes?
Yeah.
Sure.
I know, I apologize.
Do
Rich.
people feel comfortable if I can get these minutes handwritten and scanned to you before the meeting tomorrow? Would that be okay? I mean, I could get them typed later, but is there a need to have them tomorrow morning?
I don't
No,
think
but
there's a need.
if you want to contact me later, we can just go through and make sure. I think the key is that we know what we need to go back to for tomorrow. So maybe that's just you and me walking through it. The minutes can come afterwards if you like.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I'll contact you tomorrow. Beautiful.
Any other questions for anybody? If not, we'll see you tomorrow. Be there, be square. You know, it always does remind me of the Hollywood Squares game.
Yeah.
I move to adjourn.
All right. Is there all in favor? Chris,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Rich,
Yes.
Jim, yes. Thank you. We are adjourned.
See you tomorrow, 1:30.
See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.